Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the recap of Stage 20 of the Tour de France, the transition stage. Normally Stage 20, it's been a TT, it's been a mountain stage, or it's been something else, but a transition stage like this is usually Stage 18 or 19, and it's a hard one. 3,000 meters of climbing over 184 kilometers long. We have a few Category 4s, Category 3, and the hardest climb of the day is the Côte de Tézy. It's about 60 k's from the finish, 3.5 k's, 9%. Pretty, really hard climb, but it is far from the finish where it's rolling terrain, up and down hills, rainy conditions. The break would likely form on the opening 12k, 4% climb, and then there's a tricky or fast descent afterwards. Just a non-stop hard day in the breakaway. If this was on stage in the first 5 stages, you might have a versatile sprint team trying to control it. In the third week of a Grand Tour before Paris tomorrow, absolutely zero chance. So it was a 100% breakaway. Trek didn't get to control again, Benji, because the intermediate sprint was finally after a climb, which, by the way, I think there needs to be more of next year. I don't understand why every single IS this year was before a climb.
Yeah, it's very sprinter focused then, because if you have it after climb 1 or climb 2, then it might lean towards a rider that can get over the climb and get the intermediate sprint afterwards, in the sense of a Wout van Aert, an old school Peter Sagan, stuff like that. And now it's very focused on the more pure sprinters, which benefits the likes of Jonathan Milan, which then they also have to control break formation, which gave us an interesting dynamic in certain places, but I agree that it should be more mixed throughout this Tour de France. Nonetheless, talk about breakaway formation, Patrick. The entire first hour of today's stage was break formation. It was actually really chaotic because the weather conditions today ain't no sunny French conditions on the road today. Rainy, depressing, gray conditions. Imagine riding a Tour de France, which very hard to imagine for people like us, but imagine riding a Tour de France after 19 crazy fast stages, multiple mountain stages. You arrive on stage 20, you get a stage that you say, okay, so many people will want to go in the breakaway. I'll sit in the peloton, I'll chill 14 minutes behind the breakaway. I'm sorry, but getting those weather conditions on your shoulders, that must be pretty sad. Nonetheless, in the break formation,
I'd prefer it.
Really? Over sunny, casual conditions?
Well, if you gave me the choice of this versus like the Houtecam weather, I'd take this every time.
Yeah, but if you get 17 degrees average weather, that's better than both, no?
Yeah, but in summer, if the sun's out, it won't be 15, 17, unless you're in Andorra.
Mate, I'm in the UK, so for me, if it's sunny, it's 10 degrees.
I think 20 and raining when you're racing is not bad. I'll take it. Paris, when it's 8 degrees and raining, bit more grim. But they're still in shorts here. Maybe some of the smaller skinny boys are in a gilet or two. Some are in jackets in the peloton because they're not racing in the final 45 minutes of this stage. But yeah, break formation is chaotic. We see Wellens trying to get in, mostly for UAE. Narvaez was sniffing around a bit. And if Narvaez got in this break with Wellens,
yeah,
100% win probability. Because, well, he's the fastest sprinter and he's undroppable on the 3K 9% climb, / could drop everybody. We saw Van Aert and Jorgensen trying to get in. Campenarts has a mechanical. EF, I got to give more credit to EF.
Okay.
By far the most seamless, well, up to a certain point in this stage, seamless team getting into breakaways. They do it as a team. When you compare how they've done it to Visma, it's night and day. They have Asgreen ahead, which they did with Palace the other day, and then the others can come back in the wheels. The one fly in the ointment today was, I think Ben Healy was really stuffing up their chances. I don't mind him trying once. He tried once when Asgreen was ahead, and the gap was 35 seconds. But Johannesson and Vauquelin were all over him. And UNOX, strong team. And Arkea, good team here as well. They are not going to ride with you. They are fully committed to defending their GC place. And I think Ben Healy had to accept once he saw them marking them that it wasn't happening. Instead, he keeps jumping despite and getting in groups. And there's 4 EF in there with him, but he kind of sabotages the group and sabotages Asgreen. But otherwise, EF, Sweeney's ahead. Powers jumps to his wheel. They immediately start relaying. They get into a group. With Van Aert, it's more like jumping out of neutral, Benji, with the whole peloton on his wheel.
And the first jumping on a neutral never really works. But if we do bring it to a move that did work, you mentioned Wellens, you mentioned Jorgensen, those two riders get up the road together with Kossu. That's a 3-man group that gets up the road and rides off the front for a little bit. That eventually also becomes part of the eventual breakaway, because behind we have these numerous attacks, and you mentioned the F being very active in that. We get a chasing group that includes the F. Harry Sweeney's in there. Next to that, Pascal Eenkhoorn, not a surprise in my opinion. Romain Grégoire also in there. Ivan Romeo, stage winner at the Dauphiné. We have Matteo Trentin, Jordan Giga, we'll get to that in a second. Frank van den Broek and Jake Stewart. And the important thing about Jordan Giga is that he's 11th in GC before the stage. So yesterday evening I looked at GC and I was like, okay, Jordan Giga, watch party, backdooring the top 10 on stage 20. I think it's possible. And he goes into the breakaway today. He needs to get about 4 minutes and roughly 11 seconds back on Ben O'Connor. So how would Jaco and Ben O'Connor respond to this? First of all, the fact that Giga gets into this breakaway with relative ease, in my opinion, shows that Jaco fails at their first step of the day.
Well, Schmid was trying to get in, and he got away on with Jorgensen on the descent off the Cat 3, but then he just misses the next move. I feel like that's happened to Jaco a few times, and it's...
How does Schmid getting in help O'Connor to finish in the top 10 at the end of the race?
Yeah, but you can do both.
I agree.
You want to go for the stage with Schmidt. You don't put the shackles on him to watch Jordan Giga all day, and Schmidt was ahead of him. It's when the group of Giga was coming back, there needs to be Plapp in there. There needs to be... O'Connor's got to do it himself as well. At the end of the day, you have to do it yourself. Johannesson and Vauquelin were marking Healy themselves. And so it's... I know on that descent there were splits, like there were huge splits everywhere. It was chaotic. No one knew what was happening. But still... credits to Giga, and it looks like he's dooming this counter move, and I think a lot of people miss out on this counter move. They come across to Wellens, Kossu, and Jorgensen. They reach up, Jacob pulling full, but with one rider, and maybe Plapp. They're pulling, doesn't work. Schmidt crashes, gap was 30 seconds. There's a couple of chasse patats. Axel Laurence and chasse patats, so many bad chasse patats.
We got to talk about Axel Laurence and his timing of attacks. This is maybe the 7th time in this Tour de France that I see a breakaway go up the road, and I turn off my TV for a bit, and I come back to my TV, and 5 minutes later, Axel Laurence is in a chasse patat. What is wrong with his timing towards breakaway? It's like he always misses the initial breakaway, or Ineos misses the breakaway, and then they call up Axel Laurence and say, launch the attack, buddy. That's how it feels like. It doesn't just happen here. It happens later in the stage as well, and it's quite funny. But you said it. Jaco is spacing with Mauro Schmid. Mauro Schmid has that crash. Mauro Schmid returns. He starts spacing, but Mauro Schmid himself isn't going to keep this in check, and the gaps keeps growing. 30 seconds, 50 seconds, a minute plus, 2 minutes plus, stays at 2 minutes for a little bit, but by the time we get to the midway point of the stage, gap is 4 minutes, and that's exactly what Jordan Giga needs to get virtually into the top 10 over Ben O'Connor. So it switches to 4:11 and goes over that, with Giga getting that virtual top 10 by the time we get to the Côte de Tézy, which is arguably the steepest climb of today's stage, fair to say?
Yeah, I was really surprised at what happens here. I was thinking Giga has to get away from these guys because they're all like, Velasco's abusing him. The others just accepted it. Like, EF don't care because I think Healy had 10 minutes on Giga. It's not going to go to 10 minutes. Yeah. And also, you can just like attack him later. He's a tiny climber. And only Velasco was concerned about him. But at that point, once it had 4:11, it's never coming back. So you chill out. The Côte de Tézy was really, really weird. I was expecting... Well, Schmid and Jaco tried to keep it close. They couldn't. I was expecting O'Connor. I think he did pace for a bit in the peloton to try and like bridge across and solve this himself. Yeah. I was expecting him to bridge across and try to ride against Giga like 1v1 for the last hour and a half. That kind of doesn't happen behind. Giga, predictably, there was no one attacking at all on Côte de Tézy. It's Caden Groves setting the pace Caden Groves wants. He's happy to give the others the draft as long as he's doing the pace he wants. I was expecting Wellens, Grégoire, Jorgensen to want to get rid of Stewart and Groves and Trentin. None of them do anything. And Giga starts pacing. It's a bit harder than Groves wants. So Groves just lets his wheel go. He's like, where's he going to go? 58 kilo guy for 65 Ks. And he gets like 23 seconds for free. No one reacts behind for a while. Then Harry Sweeney goes across. And I'm like, what is everyone doing? Are they like insane? Like, if Sweeney gets across and Jagar can keep relaying with him, you have a big problem. Now you have a big problem for yourself. It does keep the group moving. Behind, there's an attack by Van Aert. It doesn't go anywhere.
And
with people that missed it.
And before the climb, Axel Laurens attacks again.
Yeah.
So he gets his second shot put out into today's stage. And that Wout van Aert move, for Wout van Aert, sure, tried something from the peloton, whatever. I don't care too much. I think that's the second point on which Ben O'Connor could have gotten up the road and could have gotten a 1v1 going with Jagar. Because if he's in that group, that's much more realistic than the peloton for control. Because it's not just O'Connor or Schmidt pacing then, it's that entire group relaying to get to the front of the race. And, well, the Lettre wouldn't have, who was in that group, because obviously Jagar's his teammate, but most of that group, including Wout van Aert, might have relayed with Ben O'Connor. But you said it, Mr. Sweeney, we said it already, a super underrated rider. That Tour de Swiss time trial was insane, the mountain time trial, getting fifth there. That was ridiculous, but he gets to Jagar, he attacks or drops Jagar.
No, Jagar was just fucked and couldn't pull through.
Self-implosion, basically. Yeah. It's and that's the how the story rode for a bit. Because Sweeney gets a gap of 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds at most, I'm pretty sure, towards the chasing group, in which you have some Group 2 syndrome. But eventually there's also the people that realize, okay, we've still got 30-ish kilometers to go to the finish line. We can still make stuff happen here. And I feel like it was Jorgensen that reinitiated the attacks there, but it came at a cost because he reinitiates attacks and then eventually someone else goes, and then Jorgensen misses that move that actually goes. And that's kind of what happens here.
It seemed the group today was not going to let Wellens do what he did on the stage he won on stage 15. Caden Groves himself refused to let Wellens just sit on, but this is like, with 130 Ks to go, he calls Wellens bluff and says, you're going to really back yourself out of the break? And Wellens closes it. Velasco wasn't putting up with it. But Wellens, he's won a stage. So he can gamble more than these other guys in the breakaway. And they let him do it on stage 15 and he punished them and won. But indeed, Jorgensen and Wellens mark each other out. Break goes, like it just keeps attacking. It's so many, like you can't mark everyone because you can't say, oh, we'll just focus on this guy. Okay, well, what if even Romeo goes? He's dangerous. Yep. What if Sweeney goes again? All these guys, Gregoire can sprint. These guys are really strong.
But it goes to the extreme because you say it, an attack comes from that second group, that chasing group. Harry Sweeney still up the front, but Eenkhoorn, Gregoire, Groves, Frank van den Broek, and Jake Stewart become the first chasing group. Then Trentin, Romeo, Velasco, and Jagar get away from Wellens and Jorgensen too. So it's actually the original three that get lost out of this breakaway. Kostju, Jorgensen, and Wellens are the ones that get dipped out of these splits with about, if I had to guess, roughly 30 kilometers to go. I didn't write the kilometer mark on my notes, but that's a bit irrelevant, to be honest. And this is how we start moving towards the last potential relevant climb of today's stage, the Côte de Longueville. Maybe there's another word after that, but I don't care too much. On that climb, at the foot, Sweeney gets caught by Group 2, but also Group 3. So the front group is now Harry Sweeney, Pascal Eenkhoorn, Romain Gregoire, Caden Groves, Frank van den Broek, Jake Stewart, Matteo Trentin, Ivan Romeo, Velasco, and Jagar. And Patrick, on that Côte de Longueville, do we see the attacks from the punchers that we maybe expected on the Tizzy?
I gotta admit, Benji, I was in the mountains.
Patricio! He is not going to the mountains!
The amount of times I roll my ankle, I walk down a 30% climb for an hour watching, I just roll my ankle, but I actually had a low phone battery, and even I'm not stupid enough to run out of battery at 1900 meters and break my ankle and not be able to call my wife.
This is an intervention. I know that the joint cycling plan is really important.
Bro, it's a transition stage 20. I don't give a fuck.
Anyway, I did my duties today. And on that Côte de Longueville, we said it, group came back together. Riders start getting dropped because the tempo goes up, because Gregoire goes to the front, starts pushing. Over the top, we see Caden Groves starting to push as well. And the group gets rid of some riders that have put in the efforts already. Jordan Jagar went on that Côte de Tizzy. He drops on this climb. Eenkhoorn struggles a bit more on the climb, so he goes off the back as well, but he tries to do his own tempo a little bit more than the others. The others are just blowing up. Sweeney's also blowing up off the back. The leftover riders are Romain Gregoire, Caden Groves, Romeo, Velasco, Frank van den Broek, and Jake Stewart, and they go into a descent, which leads into a roundabout, I'm pretty sure, and on that roundabout, we've got, with 17-ish kilometers to go, Romeo going hard into it, sending it into that corner, super wet conditions still, slides out completely.
He was never making it. I was watching at this point. He was never making it. When you see the front on, you're like, he's going 20 k's an hour too fast.
It was actually a really hard crash, though. Yeah. And it's like, the crash itself, sliding out, fair. It's the obstacles that he hit while he's sliding that become the problem. What do you call that? A footpath by the side of the road where you walk.
A footpath?
A pedestrian? Yes. Okay. Footpath sounds
kind
pretty
of close
actually.
to a footpath. Whatever you said.
But,
are you serious? Benji, you realize Dutch is like, and English is almost the same.
Sure, buddy.
It is.
Sure, buddy.
I can understand. It's like half the time, actually, you and Luke don't speak to each other.
What is the English word for bitterballen, sir? Is it the same?
Bitterballen?
Yeah, the English word. Go ahead.
Fuck, croquette.
See, it's not the same.
Well, yeah, but what?
Point is made. Different language.
Yeah. Bitter balls.
I'm not having this shit. Anyway.
Marnade and apple. That's... Anyway,
Romeo.
Crash, Romeo, not good. Jorgensen, Kostya, and Wellens are behind, marking each other out. It's going to be one at the front of the race, and we have a group formed of Jake Stewart, Frank van den Broek, Caden Groves, and, you know, a lot of people losing their minds in this stage, doing strange things. It's the end of the 3 weeks of the Tour de France. Pressure's on, and we've got 2 sprinters and 1 attacker.
Yeah.
And that's Stewart and Groves. To be honest, either of them I would back to win the sprint. Groves probably the favourite because he's a fitter rider and it's a hard day. Frank van den Broek stops pulling because he has no chance to beat these guys in the sprint, and he's going to attack them from behind. There is a chase behind, so these guys can't just ride through at tempo. They do have to ride hard, and are they going to do that with Frank van den Broek in their wheel for 20 Ks? Jake Stewart doesn't think so. And so Jake Stewart pulls off, bluffs Frank van den Broek. Frank van den Broek doesn't pull, which this is on Van den Broek, not Stewart.
Nah, it's on both.
Yeah, but when Stewart opens the gap, Van den Broek has to close it.
It's on both. I'm sorry, but it's on both. Jake Stewart is literally letting the gap. He breaks through it as well. Sorry, but this is in such a random moment. Groves is pacing in front of you. Stewart is in the wheel. Frank van den Broek in third wheel. In that order, you don't make a finessing move. The way you make a finessing move is Groves goes to the front. Then afterwards, we see Stewart goes to the front. And if then Frank van den Broek skips a turn, then Groves tries to finesse him to get him to do the pull after Jake Stewart. Stuff like that. That's how you would assume. Because then you're blaming someone or acting on someone not doing anything. Now Jake Stewart just basically breaks from the wheel of Caden Groves.
Yeah.
I think both are making a mistake here.
Both do. I mean, Stewart also needs to react. Groves sees it, and Groves is gone. And listen, of the 2 Queensland boys in this breakaway, one of them had to win. They both played their cards right. They got that endurance. And they're both strong at the end of 3 weeks. And Groves also did the Giro. And so I wanted one of both of them to win if Jorgensen didn't win. And so Groves was just away. And Luke, I'd be remiss, he needs us to say this. The legacy of Walter Limburg reigns supreme over this breakaway. I mean, we've got Pascal Enkhorn, who was second last year. We've got Frank van den Broek, who I think was third this year. And we have Caden Groves, who dusted the Lotto boys solo in that hilly race in 2023, maybe. And Caden Groves, it was just the legacy of Walter Limburg was 1, 2, 3 in this stage. And Caden Groves is not just a sprinter. He's kind of like what Wout van Aert was almost. And he's just like a durable classic sprinter. You can put him in Roubaix, you can put him in this, he can win solo from a break.
I will bring you one better. In 2022, Stefano Oldani podiumed the Volta Limburg. And a month later, he won a stage in the Giro.
Exactly. Volta Limburg, an incredibly important race to prepare for the Grand Tours. And I think Caden Groves still underrated. I thought he was going to have a tough time in this break because of the Romeos, the Wellens, the Jorgensens, the Sweeneys, who had zero interest in getting to a sprint. And I think Caden Groves deserved to win because he never missed a pull. Never missed a pull. He was always in the front. He pulled the Côte de Tezy in front at his pace, not trying to hide in the back.
He went over the top of Longueville.
Went over the top of the climb, so he's in the front position for the descents. And if you do that, you put yourself in the best position to win, and he did that. And then he basically let Romeo crash. He let Jorgensen and Wellens play their game. He let Stewart and Frank. The others just started doing crazy shit around him, and he just kept trucking.
He kept trucking, and also at the end of the day, yes, if you go back on this podcast 5 years ago, I may or may not have had a controversial opinion about Caden Groves in the past. I think I said something like pro Conti level sprinter or something, and I individually myself, I fueled this man's entire career with that sentence. That criticism is what led him to this moment. So I take credit for all his capabilities ever since, and this man is on his way to winning a Tour de France stage victory. I don't know if you've crossed him over the finish line yet with your explanation here, but
Caden Groves wins. Frank Vandenbroek holds on to second, twice second in 2 years. Pascal Encoln third. Simone Velasco wins the sprint of the group behind in front of Gregoire, Jake Stewart, Jagar, Wellens, Jorgensen, Sweeney. Trentin and Kosciu get tailed off. The Astana boys sprint for the 25 UCI points. They can probably chill out, I would say, with the UCI points now. In terms of points jersey, Milan's fine. He's got it. KOM Pogacar's got it. White jersey, Lipovic safely through. And GC, the one change is Jordan Jagat leapfrogs Ben O'Connor by best part of 2 minutes to take his 10th position on GC. So it could have been salvaged by Jayco, Benji. It's not like the gap at the end is 6 minutes.
Yeah.
The stronger team, different pacing. I think that gap could have been smaller.
I agree. But at the end of the day, Jordan Jagat gets a nice top 10 in this Tour de France. For now, we will see what happens tomorrow surrounding neutralization of GC times or not, or whether people go ham on the climbs, etc. But honestly, it's actually quite interesting because, Patrick, if you take a look at the top 10s of GCs in the last 5 years in Grand Tours, then if you look at the GC at the Tour de France, you respond with, okay, damn, that's a very large gap from P1 to P10. But I also respond with the thought of, is it harsh when I say, okay, I was kind of expecting a higher level of riders to be in this top 10? No offense to Jagai, but...
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that, or 3 reasons. One, the concentration of second and third tier GC riders in the super teams. Yep. So Vlasov, who, Vlasov has top 5 Grand Tours before. Adam Yates, podium this race. Simon Yates won the Giro. Sepp Kuss won the Vuelta. Joe Almeida crashed out. The concentration of Grand Tour top 10 contenders who have gone to the super teams, and then that's one reason. The second reason, dodging Vingegaard and Pogacar. So we have the Giro, I would say, had a very good depth of GC rider. Ayuso, a few crashed out, of course. You then have some abandonments and collapses. Almeida, Jorgensen, Enric Mas, Remco. And then now I've made it up to 5 reasons. The 5th reason is also that these guys in the top 10 now don't look as good as we thought it would be, but that actually will look different in 2 years because these guys will be the big names. Lipovic, Onley, Gol, Johannesson, maybe even Jagar kicks on, Healy. They're young, and in 2 years, we'll be like, oh, that was quite a good top 10, because in 2 years, they're going to keep improving.
Feels like a bit of a passing of the torch moment when it comes to the top 10 as well in GCs, but also the rest of the reasons are very valid, I think, in general. But yeah, I still feel like Ben O'Connor kind of messed up today. I think defending that top 10 should have been possible against Shiga. Personally, marking him in break formation, I don't know where he was in breakaway formation, whether he was marking him or not, but I didn't see much of that. And sure, Mauro Schmidt crashed, which didn't help the chase, but at the end of the day, it is an entire team of Jaco versus a single rider in the breakaway, Giga, that got in the breakaway. Obviously gets help from that breakaway, but that feels like a bit of a failure on Jaco's part. And anyway, that is the stage of today. What else can we talk about, Patrick? Tomorrow's stage? Let's do that. Let's talk about tomorrow's stage. Stage 21, Patrick. We talk about the Champs-Élysées stage, Mantes-la-Ville to Paris Champs-Élysées, 130 kilometers, and it starts off with the usual run into Paris. The first half has 2 KOM points. Don't think it matters. I think mathematically Tadej Pogacar has already won, so we might see someone, I don't know, Jonas Vingegaard in the consolidation. Shame Polka Dots might go for it for honor if he's allowed from the peloton. I severely doubt it. But then we arrive at the Champs-Élysées with about, we arrive at the Champs-Élysées with about 60 kilometers to go, 70 kilometers to go, but then in the last half of the race, we have 3 times the Côte la Butte Montmartre, which is the climb we saw in the Paris Olympics. And it is not the craziest climb. It's 1K 4.8%, but it is cobbled, so that has its influences. It can make the race more versatile, but have we had a conclusion yet, Patrick? Because we heard some rumors today. I think it was Jeremy Whittle that might have posted it on Twitter. I might be wrong about that. But the mention of potential time gaps being neutralized for GC for tomorrow?
Yeah, normally if it's raining on the Paris circuit, they neutralize the time gaps. But the point of this stage is that there was supposed to be actual racing. Yep. So I don't know how I think it should be neutralized. And personally, if it's raining, if they're going to do I think UAE should be allowed to do their champagne moments at the start of the stage, the full ceremony. I think they should be allowed to do that. I think it's part of finishing the Tour de France. I think a crash of Pogacar on the... I'm maybe speaking a bit like a traditionalist, but yeah, Pogacar crashing on some cobbles and then losing the Tour, I mean, that's a joke outcome.
Well, but that's also...
Finish cycling. 21 stages, yeah. Don't crash, I guess, is also the answer.
The whole point of a Grand Tour is that you need to finish the Grand Tour. You need to position yourself before the cobble climbs. You need to get over those cobble climbs. So I don't think that's a valid excuse to neutralize the GC times. The real reason that I don't really care whether they get neutralized tomorrow or not is because there's not much action possible in GC, in my opinion, that I'm too hyped about for tomorrow. If GC gaps were super close to the podium for the victory, etc., then I'd say 100% race it, regardless of the weather conditions. Obviously, if it starts to be freezing rain and super wet downhill cobbles, etc., then we're talking about something different. But if it's just rainy conditions, then it's another stage in the Tour de France with rainy conditions. Then it shouldn't be neutralized time gaps. But in this case, I just don't care.
So they do 3 laps of that climb. The final one is crest with 6Ks to go. As Benji said, it's not that. I mean, 1K 4.8%. This is not like this is not the Murder even though it is cobbled. But there will be nervousness, of course. And Arnaud Delis didn't look too crash hot today. I think, frankly, the sprinters are just fucked, apart from Groves.
And who's going to control this for their sprinter?
Yeah, I mean, the second time up, right? If you're UA, you got Wellens, Narvaez, Pog, you can go crazy. Visma got Jorgensen, Van Aert, but no, they can go crazy. Even Vingegaard should be attacking.
Simmons Stuyven for Little Trek instead of Milan.
Yeah, they know Milan's not going to make it, so Trek are going to go full Tom Schoens. Like, great puncher. I think in the Olympics he was good on this very climb. So, yeah, even Quick-Step with... they probably won't go familiar. I mean, who's going to control the brake?
Yeah, well, depends on how the stage is written, because you mentioned the champagne thing.
Who controls the brake?
If tomorrow is not neutralized, then why are there champagne thingies in the first half of the race?
Yeah, fair point.
Because there can be GC differences on the last half, then, which I don't expect, but that's the reality of the situation. So then it's a normal GC. Then it's a normal stage where GC action can happen. So there shouldn't be a champagne adventure at the start of the race then?
I think there will be, and I think they'll start racing 57Ks in when they enter the Paris circuit is how it's going to work. Normally the sprint teams absolutely lock down the breakaway. That's not the case here. Like, a Trek going to lock it down? I think the break wins. I think a break goes on the Paris circuit and the stage wins played out from there.
I think that's very possible, and I think we'll see very similar riders as today going in it again. We'll see Tim Wellens as a rider that I do see as offensive tomorrow. Wouldn't shock me if we see Pogacar doing something tomorrow. He's done it before on the Champs-Élysées.
He seems pretty done with this race.
He seems pretty done with this race, but maybe he just needs some competition. And tomorrow's parcours has some competition against breakaway riders, I guess. That's how you could look at it. It's not the likeliest scenario, though. I'll be honest about that one. Asgreen, Healy, etc. Healy will be a bit more difficult if GC times are not neutralized, for example. But Sweeney, Paulus, those riders, we see some riders from Intermarché trying. Abara and Victorious, a Fred Wright going in the breakaway, even though his Tour de France has not been that great after his crash in week 1, if I recall correctly. Romain Gregoire again, Louis Askey, Samuel Watson. Every single team has riders for it. And how about Caden Groves?
Exactly. Why can't Caden Groves go again? My pick's Narvaez. If they neutralize it, then Narvaez will get a free rein. And then my pick's Narvaez because you can't drop him on the climb, and beating him in the sprint's going to be pretty tough. And he'll also be like, he'll sit on.
Groves can beat him in the sprint, though.
Yeah, he can.
And I think he can follow him on this climb.
He can. I just think not. Yeah.
Can you do it after today?
Exactly.
That's the big question.
So I'm picking Narvaez, but it's the last chance saloon for a lot of these teams. FDJ got a good team for it. They'll be going all out. I think it goes to the break, and it's going to be quite a strange finish to this race, indeed. I mean, if it's not neutralized, then why shouldn't Oscar Onley attack on the first rep?
Exactly. Got to try.
Isn't
and get
that what the
podium.
organizers want? So they shouldn't neutralize it then.
I think they shouldn't neutralize it.
Because then it defeats the entire purpose of having this circuit, and then I'd rather just watch the sprint.
Yep. Fully agree.
Because then you're just having a different procession for classics riders instead of a procession for sprinters.
Fair.
So, and I'd rather, if it's going to just be a procession, then I would rather watch Milan against Merlier one last time than a classics breakaway, because we just saw that today. But yeah, there are our picks. Hope you enjoyed the recap. And
I didn't pick anyone yet, buddy.
Yeah, too slow. I'm going to Paris tomorrow. So.
Julien Alaphilippe. I'm going for it.
Tudor got to get something out of this race. I mean...
Mate, if Alaphilippe wins on the Champs-Élysées, that'd be epic.
He'll panic.
It will never happen, but imagine the scenario, Patrick.
I can.
On a serious note, I actually think Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert or Kampenaerts. I'll go with Kampenaerts.
I think Kampenaerts is, maybe more likely. We'll see tomorrow. I'm going to Paris, so there might not be a podcast tomorrow afternoon or evening. Sometimes we skip this.
I'm getting a day off.
Yeah, well, you'll still watch it, but we'll be back with the women's recap and then the overall Tour de France review in the early next week. Thanks for listening as always, and until then, ciao, ciao.